Coach, one of the great things about working at Tudor Collegiate Strategies is that I am surrounded by some really talented people, experts who bring their creativity and their passion and professionalism to our workplace every single day, and they devote their life to helping coaches. And we have one of those people up next. Dan Christensen is a former college coach, former sales professional who now works with our coaches throughout the Eastern and Atlantic region of the country. He's a fantastic resource, great consultant, and many of you have been reading his work weekly in the College Recruiting Weekly newsletter that we put out. He authors the Tuesday 2 column, and it's two key points based on our research, his consultations, and general knowledge of both recruiting and sales to offer two quick points, two tangible research points to coaches to work on and to focus on throughout every week. And he's here to do that in this session at the National Collegiate Recruiting Conference. Two things to help you stand out in recruiting, and it focuses on what you should be doing with the parents of your recruit. Here's Dan Christensen.
Hey, Coach. Glad to have you today. Excited to talk about two ways that you can stand out in recruiting. My name is Dan Christensen, and I'm one of the recruiting coordinators here at TCS. I'll write the Tuesday 2 article that comes out in the College Recruiting Weekly newsletter every Tuesday morning. And so want to take that same approach with today's talk and just give you two simple things that you can do to help stand out in recruiting. That's a big part of what recruiting is trying to show that you're unique, you're different than the other options that these kids have. And so these two things are going to be pretty simple, but they stand out for a few different reasons. The first is that the research tells us it works. The kids that you're recruiting tell us that these are things that they like, things that help them make their decision. The other reason that it stands out is that not a lot of coaches are doing these things, or at least not doing them well. And so if you can do these two things and do them better than the other programs that are recruiting the kids that you're trying to go after, it's going to really help you stand out and show that you're different and you're kind of going above and beyond. And so I want to help you do that today. And so the first thing is communicate with your recruits' parents early and often in the recruiting process. And so I want to take a few things and explain why this is important, but also give you some practical things for how to do this effectively. The first reason why it's important is that recruits want it. Again, in the research, they tell us that they want the parents to be involved. It's a decision that's important, and so they want help, and their parents are a big part of that. 72% say that mom and dad tell them their opinion of schools. They're looking for this opinion. They're looking for help. And so mom and dad are giving their opinion. Now, what's their opinion based off of, though? Is it based off of what they've seen on your website or that they've heard from friends or family? Or is it, maybe based off what they just perceive about something about your school? If maybe you're a small school and they just have a certain, thought about small schools, is that what their opinion is based off of? Or is it based off of what you've been telling them, again, early and often throughout the recruiting process about who you are, what your school is all about, and why you're a great option for their son or their daughter? I'd rather it be the second option. And so you need to be part of that communication. 60% say that mom and dad are helping them narrow down their choices. And so when it gets to near the end, they're saying, hey, mom and dad, we have 5 schools. I want to narrow it down to 2. What are the 2 that you think should kind of be in the final running? If mom and dad don't know who you are and you haven't explained to them, why you're a good choice for them and that, they should trust you and have that relationship, it's going to be a lot harder for them to say, hey, keep this school, in the running but we don't really know the coach, we don't really know the school, but you should still keep them in the running. It's just not going to happen. So you need to be part of the conversation and be involved because your recruits are wanting that help. And so you need to show the parents, why you're a good option for them. 91% say that what their parents said influenced their decision. So whether it's their opinion of your school, their opinion of colleges in general, what they think about the application process, FAFSA, what they think about playing college athletics, what their parents are saying is affecting their decision. And so again, I want you to have somewhat of an influence on how their parents are influencing them. And so you have to have those conversations and be part of the conversation and have a relationship with them early and often. The other reason why it's important is because the parents want it. The parents want to be involved. They want to know the money. If you can't offer a full ride and you're asking them to pay, a certain amount of dollars to go to your school and be part of your program, they want to know that it's worth it. They spent a lot of money and a lot of time and effort all throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school on their son or their daughter's athletic endeavors. So their training, their tournaments, their all these different things, all leading up to this college experience. And so they want to know, was it worth it? Am I going to be paying, this much? What am I going to be getting? So they want to have those conversations. You need to be part of that and explain that to them. Distance is an example of that's a common thing for a lot of parents, that especially if it's maybe their first kid that's going off to college, they're worried about even going an hour or two away across state lines, across the country. For them to be able to make that leap and go that far, they need to know about the coach. They need to know about the school. And so you need to do your part in explaining that as the recruiter, as the coach. And overall, just building trust. They want to trust you. They want to know that you're going to keep them safe. The school is going to keep them safe. It's going to be the best opportunity for them to grow. They want to know all these things. They need to be able to trust you in order to decide to send their son or their daughter to your school. And so it's harder to do that without having conversations early and often in the process. The other reason why it's important is to get better feedback. Seeking out the no is something that's really important in recruiting. As much as you want to always hear yes, you want to hear the no's too, and not waste your time recruiting kids that aren't going to ever choose you. And so sometimes the kids won't necessarily tell you that. They might want, they just want to be recruited and they want to get the love from you. And so maybe they just don't know how to tell you no, or they don't want to tell you no. But if you have that relationship with the parents, you might be able to come to them and get some better feedback, more honest feedback, and come to these conclusions sooner that, this isn't going to be a good fit. Let's move on and not, waste more of each other's time with recruiting their son or their daughter. Find out what the parents are like. One of the objections that I hear a lot from coaches is, I'm recruiting the kid, I'm not recruiting the parents. I don't want to have to deal with the parents once their son or their daughter comes on campus, and the helicopter parents and all that stuff, and they don't want to deal with that. And so they say, I'm just going to recruit the kid. I think that's, a good reason to be communicating with the parents and recruiting the parents, because I would want to figure that out before they come on campus. If you wait until, the kid is on your team and now the parents are sending you those emails and those calls and there's all these issues coming up, it's kind of too late and you have to deal with them now. I'd rather figure out on the front end that, these parents are going to cause a lot of issues, and the relationship between the athlete and the parents just isn't really right for our culture. I would want to know that sooner rather than later. And so if you can communicate with the parents, get to know them, figure out what they are like, it's going to help you. And then getting feedback about timelines and processes. Maybe it's getting the application filled out, the FAFSA filled out. Maybe it's coming on campus. You explaining what your timeline and your process looks like, but also hearing from them, what is your guys' plan? What are you guys looking to get out of this process? When are you making your decisions? Sometimes the recruit doesn't always give you the best feedback, because sometimes the parents are the ones that are kind of guiding them and moving them along, and the kid's just kind of there figuring things out. Have those conversations with mom and dad, and you'll get more answers, better feedback about the process, and help move things along. So when do you communicate with the parents? Early, and as soon as possible. If you get on a call with a recruit and the parents aren't on the call, which would be great. If they're not, at the end of the call, say, hey, would love to talk to your parents too, introduce myself, and get to know them a little bit. Do you mind sending me their email or their cell phone number? Then you can reach out, and within that first week, try to get in touch with the parents as well. I've even had some coaches that reach out to the parents first, just as a way to start the relationship and say, hey, I want to recruit your son, or want to recruit your daughter, want to tell you about me first. And that can sometimes kick off the relationship well. At least once a month. That's kind of the suggestion of, if you're following the 6 to 9 day guideline that we suggest for recruiting the athlete, you're giving them 2, 3, 4 communications, every single month that are reasons that they should come. Once a month, summarize what you've been talking about. Say, hey, mom and dad, this month we've been talking about this. What are your thoughts on this? They'll appreciate that. They'll feel respected. They'll feel like they're in the loop, and it kind of helps you tell the story to them as well. It's not as much demanding as it is with the recruit, but they still want to hear from you consistently. Another great reason to reach out, a time to reach out, is when you haven't heard from the recruit. If you haven't heard from them in a few weeks, reach out to mom and dad and say, hey, haven't heard from so-and-so in a few weeks. Just want to see if everything's okay. Not sure if this is a sign that maybe you guys aren't interested anymore. And see what they say. If you have that relationship already built, they're probably going to get back to you and say something. Maybe they tell you, hey, there was a death in the family, and, we haven't been able to, get in touch with coaches the last few weeks, but we're going to start working on it. Great. Now you didn't give up on that recruit for a reason that you shouldn't have, given up on them. Or maybe the parents come back to you and say, yeah, we're sorry, we're not looking anymore at your school. Appreciate it. Yeah, it hurts and it's hard to wish the player had come to you, but at least now and you're not going to waste weeks or months more of your time recruiting that athlete when they're not interested. How to do it. Mix it up just like you do with the athletes. Send them some emails and letters. A letter to a parent can go a long way. Uh, Give them reasons why they should choose you. That's going to be important for the athlete, but it's going to be important for the parents too. And this is a great way to do that. Get them on the phone. Your recruits want to hear from you on the phone, but they don't always love to talk. They don't always have a lot of questions for you. And so the parents might be able to have some better conversations with you about different things that they're thinking about. And so get on the phone with them. They'll appreciate that and appreciate you taking the time to do that and get to know them and hear what they have to say. And even texting too. I know texting is great with the recruits, great with the athletes. But if you have that relationship where you can text a parent real quick if you have a question, that can really help you, get things done or move along or send them something quick if you have that ability. What do we talk about? Talk about fears. Every athlete has fears, but so do the parents. They're worried about sending their kid off to some school with, a coach that they don't know and professors they don't know and an environment that they're not familiar with. And so they're worried. They're worried about how much is this going to cost? Can we pay for this? All these things, bring these up and talk about them and be someone that can be, an ear to listen, but also someone that can help solve some of their problems. Talk about some of the negative perceptions about your school. Like I mentioned with maybe if you're a smaller school, bring that up to mom and dad and say, hey, one of the things that we hear from parents a lot is that, our school is too small and they were hoping to send their son or their daughter to a school that was bigger with more opportunities. You be the one to bring that up because they might be thinking it, but if you can be the one to bring it up and give them, 3 to 5 good reasons of opportunities that they're going to have at your school, now you've kind of flipped their thinking a little bit. You've shown them how to think about your program. Whereas if you didn't bring the negative up at all, they were probably still going to think it, but they were just going to let that influence their decision. Why they should choose you, that's the big question that you should always be answering with both your athletes and the parents. Give them reasons why they should choose you. So beyond parents, the second thing that's really going to help you stand out in recruiting, writing letters. Sounds simple, but a letter is really important because it's something physical. It's a little bit different than the texts, the emails, the phone calls, the social media that these kids are getting. It's physical. It's something they can hold. They can, put it on their desk, put it on their fridge. They can show mom and dad. It's different. And like I said, we're trying to stand out, trying to be different. And so if all the other coaches are testing them, then you sending them a letter is going to be different. Higher open rate. You're probably going to get more kids to actually open and check out a letter that you send them than even an email, because they're getting a lot of emails every day, and sure, they're getting some junk mail too, maybe admissions, graphics, and pamphlets and things like that. But they're not getting as many as probably the junk email, and so it's a lot easier for an email to maybe get buried. But if they get a letter that has handwritten address, handwritten their name on it, it's a much more likely that they're actually going to open and read that. They also don't know much about how the whole mail process works. A lot of them didn't grow up writing letters. And so if you do this, get a letter to them from you, they might not know how it worked. And so there's almost this mystery, this kind of magical thing of, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to address an envelope. I don't know where to get stamps. I don't know where to put the letter, once I'm done with it. But coach figured that out and he got it to me, and that's really cool. It's something little, but it can make an impact. How to do letters? You got to have some kind of handwritten touch. Certainly if you have great handwriting or even okay handwriting, it'd be good to handwrite some of the letters, especially if you have maybe some of your important recruits. That would go a long way. But it doesn't have to be all handwritten. You can type it out, but at least handwrite your signature at the bottom. Maybe a PS or the last line. I would definitely suggest handwriting on the envelope their address so that they actually open it. Have some kind of handwritten touch. That's going to make it unique. Keep it short, keep it direct. I put this little graphic here to try to show to scale, about 2/3 of the page max is what you should be having these letters be. If it's way too long and it's just filled with information that's kind of jumping around all over the place, it's going to be less likely that they'll actually read it. And so you want to make sure that they do read it, and keeping it short and direct and to the point will help that. Make it personalized. The more the better. And I know if you're sending this out to, over 100 athletes, it can be really hard to personalize each one. But you got to have something in there that indicates that you're reaching out to them because of them, not because they're just a name on a list and just because they're an athlete in your sport, but there's some personal reason that you're reaching out to them. And there's different ways to do that, but that's really important for these letters, because otherwise it's going to come across as the same junk mail that they're maybe getting from, random college admissions departments or other coaches that are just sending this out kind of mass mail style. When to send letters? Once a month. Again, a good suggestion. If you're keeping up with 6 to 9 days, getting them some kind of message, that means you're getting about 3 or 4 out each month. Make one of those a letter. If you can get one letter a month to your recruits, that's going to stand out. There's going to be other coaches that are maybe sending letters, but they're not going to be doing it that consistently. And so look at your schedule for that month and say, yo, we're going to be sending out 4 different messages. We're going to make 3 of these emails and one of them a letter, just to mix it up a little bit. Save it for an important message. So maybe it's the first one of the month that's kind of introducing your topic for that month, or maybe it's the last one that's kind of wrapping things up. Or maybe there's a message in the middle, or a certain time of the year or something where, you know, this would be really good to get an important message out in a letter format. Just make sure you're doing it consistently. That's huge. Consistency is so important in all of recruiting, but there's a lot of coaches that might start off strong and they might get a few letters out there to these kids and then they stop because it's too much work or whatever reason. And the kids will notice that. They're going to say, hey, you know, coach seemed to be really interested. He was sending me, you know, 3 or 4 letters in the first couple months, and then he stopped. Maybe he's not that interested anymore. If you can be the coach that consistently keeps up with it, they're going to, you know, recognize that you are still interested, and that's going to help you out. Coach, you probably have some questions. What about this? How can I do this? When should I do this? Would love to talk with you about it. Shoot me an email, shoot me a text, send me a message on Twitter. Would love to set up a call and talk with you about how you can do these things if you're not doing them. And if you are, how can we do them more effectively so that you can be the best coach of all the coaches that are recruiting your athletes. You can be the best at these 2 things. They're simple things, but they're going to be huge and they're going to be really important if you can do well. There's a lot of coaches that aren't going to watch this video, and there's also going to be a lot of coaches that maybe did watch this video but just aren't going to put in the effort and take those steps to go the extra mile and be really good at this. That's only going to help the ones that do. So I encourage you to do this. Thanks for taking time to watch this video, and I hope you can enjoy some of the other NCRC videos.